Now, there have been stories out there that some naval officials are even part of the rings, the thieving rings. Is that possible?
Well, that's a difficult question for me to answer. As a naval officer, I was never part of any ring. So I don't imagine that a naval officer will be in part of the ring and the Navy will know and keep him. If anybody is found, any naval officer in uniform is found being part of any ring, he won't last one day, I believe. He won't last one day further in the Navy. He will be prosecuted by the Navy because the Navy has power over that one.
Are you aware of any form of relationship between the Nigerian Navy and some other agencies that should help in stemming the tide of oil thieves, maybe or other maritime operators that can assist the Navy in this fight?
If you're talking of agencies like the NNPC, am I right?
That's also an agency.
The NNPC, the MASA, the NP, all of these people who operate around the sea have a stake in what goes on, have a stake in a secured maritime environment, and they do cooperate. The MASA, for instance, signed an MOU with the Navy not long ago, by which they now have what they call, I think, maritime guard institution, part of the MASA. The MASA buys the boats, the Navy supplies the human beings who run the boats. Part of just securing the country. This one has arisen because the Navy is not having enough of the resources to do its job.
Oh, that's another issue here now, and who better than you to talk about this, because you've been there and you understand maybe some of these challenges. But I still get a bit worried that those people arrested, suspects picked up, numbering in thousands, are not in court because they have been handed over to some of these agencies, and we, as close watchers, haven't actually seen some of these people brought before the law.
I think the Navy is as worried as you are, all right? And maybe those other agencies are worried. The thing is, as a people, as a country, we need to sit down. Our political leadership, our bureaucratic leadership, all need to sit down and find how can we solve this problem. If it is a matter of being unable to directly prosecute, even if it's just for an experimental reason or purpose, can't the Navy be allowed? The officer of the Attorney General can issue what they call fiat, go and prosecute. And I would suggest to him that he does that. Even if it's just for a kind of experiment. Test it. Test it that, okay, maybe you have arrested, go and prosecute.
Now, I mean, we don't want to start talking about frosty relationships, but is it possible to name some of these agencies that the Navy must mandatorily send this suspects to?
I mentioned it. I said, when it's general offense, you send to the police. Mm-hmm. When it is economic sabotage offense like oil theft, you send to the FCC. Mm-hmm. When it is piracy, police. When it is smuggling, you send to the customs. If you catch an illegal immigrant, you send it to the immigration service. And if it's pipeline vandalization, you call the NSCDC into it.
We have a whole lot more there. A whole lot of the police, the Navy, NSCDC, immigration, customs, and if we have a potpourri of agencies on a particular act of criminality, and we still haven't been able to find our way out of it, it means we're not serious, and that could affect the morale of those who arrest such people.
Definitely affect the arrest of anyone. If I catch a thief in my house and I give to the police and it's not prosecuted, I feel very unhappy. The same way the Navy feels unhappy when they have done their job and somebody else to drive the effect home doesn't do it. But where we should be looking at is the law.
What are some of the constraints? Because I believe that the law was structured in such a way, was deliberately structured like this. The Navy wasn't supposed to be, involved directly in internal matters. What are some of the constraints? I'm sure that the Navy will sometimes speak with these other agencies. What are the constraints they face in prosecuting these people?
Honestly, I would have the same question. What are the constraints? I need to ask that question myself, which I have not asked.
You think that it should meet a lot more? Do you think that the Navy is doing a lot or enough in terms of speaking with these agencies to say these are the challenges they're facing? Especially when they arrest someone and then they re-arrest the same person again and again.
Yeah.
It must be a challenge.
It is because they have, they have engaged seriously in talking to them and they are not get anywhere that people like me get to know that look, this is our problem. Maybe I haven't found out enough, but that's what we got to know that this is going on, and we want to speak for the Navy.
What about
the government? Sorry.
What about the boats? I mean, if you catch someone in an act, for instance, I know that recently our correspondent in Port Harcourt went with the Naval Command and they were able to apprehend some boats, some of them big barges, leaving the shores of Nigeria, as it were. What happens in that particular situation to the boats? If we cannot do much, if the Navy cannot do much in terms of the human beings caught there, what about the vessels, especially the laden?
Sometimes in the past, the barges have been destroyed, taken to sea and sunk.
Does that make sense, really?
Doesn't make much sense, yes, you ask me, because for a poor country, why are we destroying? You answer, but the same way we go and destroy all kinds of things. However, even they are not yet destroyed, they are kept tied down in the roadsteads, in the yards, and that they congest the whole place and give more trouble.
They're not useful to us. It's not like the Navy can, convert them into something.
No, the Navy is not using badges. The Navy is not using
or maybe sell them to the companies that might.
Well, there must be law. The government must have the law court must have said sell it before you can sell it. If you can't go selling it without the courts pronouncing, go and sell it.
What if the Navy, let's just say right now the government decides that, the laws are tweaked so that the Navy is given prosecutory powers, would that help in any way? Considering also the fact that you said the Navy doesn't have enough resources to even carry out these.
That's why we let us experiment. Don't let us talk about whether the Navy have enough now or not, but let us experiment. Let us maybe 6 months. Let the Navy prosecute as a test case. If they do, and we see we are better off, then the government will provide necessary resources to give the Navy more muscle to go and do that kind of thing.
Because Nigerians are worried now, and so many comments. Egwando Tone is asking a big question. Maybe you would want to react to that. He said, well, you see how hopeless the situation of Nigeria is. Almost 3,000 are non-prosecuted, and you expect the oil theft to ease off. Are we serious in this fight at all?
Well, that's why we're talking. We want prosecution. The Navy wants prosecution.
We must keep this on.
The Navy is talking about it, and I believe the Chief of Naval Staff will have taken this on before the Minister of Defense, before the President. So the Attorney General must be informed about it. So what we expect, what we're looking forward to as retired officers now is to have a more efficient Navy. Let us come up with something new, something different from what it is.
Because so I just told you what an agency, the PPMC, did say when the pump petroleum product, that same volume doesn't get to where it is meant to go to. Because of thieves like this. And now we also talk about crude oil theft, which sometimes the Navy would still help in that. But at the end of it all, we have to test this. And you say they should give a waiver to the Nigerian Navy to see if they can actually approach the courts.
I believe that if they do, the Navy will do something worth this nation's while to get the prosecution to necessary ends. And by that, the country should be better off in dealing with these oil thieves.